Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to Uketropolis Live. It's great to be here. YouTube wanted me to verify my identity, which is why it took me a couple of extra minutes to get here. But it really is me. Finally, I convinced them that it really is me. They asked me if I could name this chord in order to get access to YouTube. No, that's not true. But wouldn't that be a test of your identity? Be like, hey, next time you go to log into some website and they're like, are you a robot? Prove that you're human by naming this chord. And you're like, oh, I actually know that one. C7 sharp 5. And they're like, you can come in. You can now send email because you are an ukulele player. That's the dystopian ukulele future that haunts me in my dreams. So, yeah. Thanks for being here. Actually, you know what? I have to say this right off the bat because it's sort of related to what I was just saying. But check this out. We have a ukulele festival coming up here in Nova Scotia called the Ukulele Ceilidh, and I had some buttons printed for this festival, and they look like this. Check this out. I'll hold it right up to the camera. See that? Yeah, it's just a button that you can wear with a blank ukulele chord diagram on it. And of course, you know what you can do with that, right? Is you can take a pen and like put your favorite chord of the moment, on that pin, right? And then you wear it around, and maybe you'll find another person who has the same favorite chord or feels the same way in that moment. So like if I'm feeling very A7 today, I could wear this. But then, if my mood changes, I can just, wipe that off, go back to square one, and I can just say like, today I'm feeling very sort of F major. And I just wear this around and see if anybody relates to me feeling very F major today, or if anybody likes to play F major that way. I'd be like, oh, I found my people. If I know people who like to play F major that way, or maybe something, maybe I stub my toe and I'm like, oh, I'm no longer in a F major mood. I'm more like, don't talk to me. I'm in an F minor mood. I guess it's better than being in an FU mood. But the point is that this is kind of like a chord mood ring, I guess. Like you just start with a blank and then you get to fill in what you like. So if you're coming to the Ukulele Ceilidh, stop by the Uketropolis table and get one of these and wear it and let us know how you feel in the moment. Like express your feeling through ukulele chords. I think it's kind of fun, but I need a name for it. I can't come up with a catchy name for ukulele chord mood pin. Ugh. If anybody has a brainwave about what I could call that thing, let me know. It's not like I'm trying to sell them or anything. It would just be nice to be able to say, hey, come and get your ukulele mood chord pin thing. And people would know what I was talking about. So yeah, anyway, I knew I was going to forget to say that, so I wanted to say it right off the bat. And also, I'll remind you again later, but Loudly, our new worldwide ukulele band through Uketropolis, is starting tomorrow. So if you haven't signed up for Loudly, maybe Sayara, you could put the link ukulele.com in the chat so we can get as many people there as possible. It's going to be super fun. I have the first arrangement all ready to go. It's really fun and wild, and it is a song from Uketropolis, and my lips are sealed. I'm not going to say what it is. So come tomorrow, sign up for ukulele. It's totally free. It's like joining a giant, worldwide ukulele band. So come on over and have some fun and play music together. Once again, express the way we feel, not just through tweets and blogs, but actually through music. What a concept. That is the non-dystopian future that I'm looking forward to, where we can understand one another through ukulele and through music. Okay, so welcome back officially, and let's get right into some student questions from Uketropolis. This is season 4, sort of. I just want to be clear about that. Season 4, not necessarily of this live version of the podcast recording, but certainly season 4 of the podcast. And as you know, these live sessions end up turning into the podcasts at Uketropolis. So this is season 4 of that whole thing happening. And as always, no change this year. We are going to focus on student questions from uketropolis.com, and especially questions that seem to require a bit of sort of expansion and demonstration. So that's why this format works so well. Okay, so our first question, let's start with this one. Okay, Doug is working on the ukulele way, and he's on lesson 10, which is donkey riding. A peppy little number with a lot of juggling of melody notes and chords. And he says, I can play this, but it's much slower than your demonstration. He says, I'm hoping my speed will increase with time. Does speed naturally increase with practice? So this is a theme. This is not just Doug asking you this, but he asked it really point blank. So I thought I would start with his question. Speed is a thing that comes up a lot with students who are looking to improve and get that fluidity on the fretboard, that fluidity with the melody and the chords. And honestly, I think that when people say speed, they might actually be talking about fluency. I'm not sure that it's always speed that's really the thing that we're after, but you know what Doug means, right? He wants it to flow naturally and feel like it's not being like it's not a bumpy road, that the music is driving on a smooth road. So I said to Doug, I said, absolutely, speed will come with time. And in fact, speed in your playing kind of sneaks up on you as you live with a song, right? I mean, you play it, and you play it, and you get it wrong sometimes. And then you sleep on it. And then you wake up and you play it again. And you repeat this play or practice and rest and practice and rest. This process is the same process by which an athlete becomes stronger, by which doctors learn how the body works, by which mathematicians learn to do those calculations that they do. It's the way that everybody learns everything, by focus and then rest, focus and then rest. While we're sleeping, arguably is when we do our best learning, when we're digesting all those lessons. And we wake up the next day. I'm sure you've had this experience. You wake up the next day, or you try it again the next week, and all of a sudden it's a lot easier than it was, but you hadn't been practicing. That's sort of the magic of, I guess, the way we're wired. So very gradually, this speed or this fluency comes. You do have to stick with it and do that cycle of work and rest and work and rest. But it's just like walking and talking. Now, traditional, rigorous practice routines, where you're really focusing on learning. This is kind of like swimming laps in the pool. These traditional rigorous practice sessions, those are our way of trying to speed up the natural process of work, rest, work, rest. It's like we're trying to use fertilizer on our learning, right? Like if you if you lived forever and you could play all day every day, you would learn all these things and you would get to that point of fluency. But of course, none of us has all the time in the world. And so we try to accelerate the learning process through sort of rigorous practice. And that can work, but it is sort of a fertilizer. It's not fundamentally the way that we learn. The way that we learn is relatively slow. It's relatively painstaking, and it requires this work rest cycle. So don't be discouraged if you don't see those gains right away. So keep playing, keep keep not playing. So important to do this back and forth. A lot of athletes, for example, overtrain and they don't have the rest time to regenerate. So playing plus patience equals fluency. And I think it's the fluency that people are hearing when they say, "Oh, I want to play fast like that." When I'm playing something like Freight Train, that always comes to mind as one that as a kid, I always thought, "Oh, that's such a fast song." I think of that as a fast song, boom, chap, boom, chap, boom, chap, boom, chap. But if I listen to the melody itself, that's not really a smoking fast melody, is it? I mean, when you play it just the melody alone, it almost sounds like a lullaby. This is not rip snorting, bluegrass or anything. I think what gives the feeling of speed, or at least when we say the word speed, what we might be alluding to is that sort of rolling, tumbling, effortless fluency that comes only with time. Okay, so I threw in a few extra notes there, but the point is, I still think that it's fluency that we're after. And so I wanted to just show you one thing that I think folks who are searching for fluency, particularly, I'm going to focus on melody playing right now. Folks who are looking for this kind of fluent, effortless flow of notes, something that often perplexes people, including myself, is like what kind of technique should you use? And those of you who know me know that I'm a big fan of using the thumb to pluck notes. I really like the tone of the thumb, the weight of the thumb, the sort of meatiness of the thumb. I also, to be honest, like the fact that sometimes the thumb kind of slows me down. It's a natural speed bump so that I don't get carried away if I'm taking a solo. I really have to choose my moments. And I like that about the thumb. It makes me sort of intentional about the decisions I make when I'm improvising. Whereas if I have a flat pick or if I'm using my fingers, I find myself flitting around a little more sort of bird-like, like not quite committing so much to things. Whereas when I'm playing with my thumb, I feel like I'm very grounded. So for all those reasons, tone and sort of musical groundedness, I really love the thumb. And if you've taken any of my courses before, you'll know that that's my bias. I mean, that's kind of the way I grew up, and that's stuck with me. So then the question is, well, can the thumb be agile? Can you still get that quickness, those sinuous kind of lines? I mean, could the thumb hang in jazz or in bebop or in Dixieland? Or would you have to switch to some other technique to get that speed, that quickness? Well, there's one thing that I've been curious about, since I was a teenager learning ukulele, and that is, I guess, in the jazz world, this is sometimes called bebop tonguing because it comes from the saxophone, where the articulation comes from the tongue. I guess you can do this on any wind instrument. But I first heard about this concept of bebop tonguing when I was in high school, in jazz band. And the idea was to sort of slur every second note into the next. So it'd be one and two and three and four and one and two and three and four and one. And when you do it fast, you get this sort of offbeat accent, but also a flow. Ba vadu 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 dat. Ba vadu 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 dat. And that sound is so characteristic of a lot of the jazz that I love, and a lot of the jazz that we've come to that we've become accustomed to over the years. Do va do va do va do dat do va do va do va do va do va do dat. That kind of a sound is really cool. And on the ukulele, we can imitate a bit of that. And the thumb actually works really well when we get into this accenting every second note. Now, let me give you an exercise where you can make this sound happen. So here's the exercise, and then I'll break it down. It goes like this. I went all the way up one string in this pattern of all the way up a string. And you'll see in a minute why I've focused on a single string, because string crossings are not the most pleasant thing, and they are the places where you trip and fall. So when you're starting any new technique, melodic technique especially, I do like to stay on a single string. It's a nice little hack that helps you focus on the technique itself. So you play the first note, pluck the first note, C. You can try this with me. And then right away, you pluck a second time, and then hammer onto the first fret. Ba, va, do, pluck, pluck, hammer, pluck, pluck, hammer. And then after that, you just keep going in this pattern of pluck, slide, pluck, slide, pluck, slide. And so this idea of plucking and then sliding the finger up gives you two notes with just one thumb pluck. And you might be thinking, well, where is he going with this? Let me put a beat on. This is from, let me see, I'm in the teacher toolkit from Uketropolis.com. If you're a teacher, you might want to check this out because it's really awesome. It's a lot of multimedia backing track video stuff to accompany your lessons. So I'm in there right now, and I'm just playing a straight, slow hip hop beat, actually. And you should be able to hear that in the background. And I can play this, so I'm really accenting that offbeat, right? And I get this nice flowing melody. my thumb is not moving very fast. My thumb is not moving very fast. The notes are moving twice as fast as my thumb. If I take it double speed, my thumb is only moving at half time. So the thumb itself is only going, at a very reasonable physical tempo, but the notes are coming out twice that fast. And that's what creates this illusion, I think, of quickness, but not just quickness. Because I could take a pick, I guess. I got one right here. If I wanted to just be fast, I could practice a lot and get really comfortable with the pick. But do you hear how with the pick, I don't have the same style as I do with the thumb? Yeah, the pick is quick, but it doesn't have the style of the thumb, right? The thumb has this cool backbeat kind of a. That's a very different stylistic choice that I would make between one and the other. It's not just speed, right? It's that fluency and the style that's behind it. So, how would we take this and actually use it in a song? Well, I would say that the next step is to take that technique, pluck, slide, pluck, slide, pluck, slide, putting it on the offbeat, and now taking it across the strings onto the E string, onto the A string. So you're covering all the notes from C to C, but you're doing it across strings now, all in the span of sort of one hand frame. And you'll see as you try this that it's the string crossings that get you. It's always the string crossings that get you. You have to sort of drop the thumb from one string to the next. It's almost like I can imagine like a road sign that would, instead of like train crossing, danger, train crossing, it'd be like danger, string crossing, because those are the moments where you're going to fall off the fretboard, right? And we all know that. It's just part of life on the ukulele. Coming down, you have to make some allowance. Sometimes you have to flop a finger onto the next string over in order to carry on the sort of this bebop rhythm. My point is, we're getting a flowing sound, a melodically flowing sound that does sound fast. It has a fluency to it, and yet we're sticking with this thumb, the heavy, grounded feeling of the thumb and all that warm tone that we get. Let me put it in context before we leave this topic. Let's try a piece. This piece is from Ukulele Jazz. This is kind of perfect because it's called Jada. You might know it. And it has been recorded by lots of people: Frank Sinatra, Peggy Lee, Oscar Peterson. And in 1954, Sonny Rollins, the saxophonist, used these same chords to create a new composition, which he called Doxy. And as a kid, I used to listen to Sonny Rollins. And this is the very same kind of bebop offbeat accent that I'm trying to imitate. So it's kind of nice that it's a tune that Sonny Rollins at least borrowed from. So here are the chords, and I'll try to play a little improvisation over the top. And when you hear those moments of quickness, those moments of sort of quicksilver shine, where you might think, oh, what technique is he using? Is he using 4 fingers and the fingernails, or is he using a fancy strum, or is he somehow switching to a flat pick? Those moments of quickness that I'm going to try to throw in there all come from the thumb, and they come from this offbeat accented rhythm that I've been showing you. So here we go. There's the band. Thanks, band. Here we go. Okay, just going out on a limb there and trying to maybe oversell. Don't hold me to that, but I'm trying to sort of overselling this idea that those those kind of moments where you think, oh, he must be changing gears to some other technique. No, they can all be done with the thumb as long as the thumb and sort of the right hand and the left hand are coordinated and they're working together. Speed, fluency doesn't so much come from one place as it comes from the coordination of all the places, right? Um, and that's sort of the takeaway that I wanted to leave you with here. It reminds me of one last thought here. It reminds me of a tune that I wrote a long time ago. I don't even remember which album it was on. It was called The Indecision Rag. And I wrote it specifically to show this type of technique. And it goes like this. Now, the idea was to write something in that sort of jazzy ragtime sort of style that could be played slow with the thumb, but that could also be played very fast and have almost like an Oscar Peterson-esque sort of fluidity with the melody notes. So even when you crank this one up, it's written so that the thumb falls through the strings in just sort of the right way at the right time, and even when it speeds up. Even when it speeds up, you still have that fluidity that I'm talking about here. So there it is. There are some thoughts on Doug's question. I'm hoping that my speed will increase with time. Well, of course, I think it will. And I think that's a very natural thing to want. But there's more to that question, I think, than meets the eye, which is why I wanted to focus on it here. Are you really talking about speed? Or are you talking about coordination and fluency? Are you really talking about acquiring new techniques? Or are you talking about refining the ones that you already thought that you might be overlooking that have more depth to them than you might have thought? So, some ideas, Doug. Thank you for the question, and I hope that helps. Okay, so that was question number one. We probably have time for one more question if I'm going to go in that much depth. But let's see. I also wanted to. There was one other thing. Oh yeah. Okay. Here's like the halftime show. I was teaching yesterday. A number of people here I know are ukulele teachers. teaching runs deep in Uketropolis because it's not just for students. Of course, we have courses and training for teachers and teaching resources. And so I know from looking in the chat that there are people here who are ukulele teachers or leaders of ukulele groups, or just people who would like to maybe do that someday, lead other people or pass on what they know. So here I am yesterday. I'm teaching this class for my son and his friends. We do it after school on Wednesdays. And we're having a ton of fun. Mostly, some days, it's tricky. You got a bunch of kids after school. They're wired or they're tired. But yesterday we had a great session, and we had some new people there who hadn't really done anything with music. I mean, they were just joining for the first time, and the rest of the kids have had at least a year of instruction on their instrument. It's not only ukuleles, but we do have some ukuleles there. And so I had this juggling act, as we so often do, of some students who were coming on stream and others who were feeling pretty comfortable. Any teachers in the chat here, any teachers online right now can relate to this fully, I know. And so I thought, well, what I need is a one chord song. I need a one chord song, probably in C, and we can all just bang away on, actually I didn't have them play a chord, it was just the C note. I wanted them to find the C note on their instrument. We had drums, piano, ukulele, tin whistle, harmonica, bongo, and glockenspiel, right? So it's not just as simple as saying, okay, everybody play the C chord. It's more like, okay, everybody try to find this sound on your instrument. Go around and see if they've got it reasonably in the ballpark. And once we all got onto a C, we sang a song that I love to play, a one chord song, or at least it can be a one chord song, every night when the sun goes in. So we sang it, kind of just normal. This was just a starting point. Every night when the sun goes in, every night when the sun goes in, and they're just playing C the whole time. Every night when the sun goes in, I hang my head and mournful cry. And at this point, I'm playing the piano actually most of the time in this group, which I don't really play, but I've been enjoying learning more about the past couple of years. So we're starting to feel like, hey, this actually works, and everybody's found their C or something close to it, and most of them have caught on to where the beat is, and they're tapping their bongos or tapping their feet or blowing into the middle of the harmonica on the beat, and it's like, okay, this is starting to sound like music. And then, and I'd already prepped my son for this because he's our drummer, and then I said, okay, let's switch it up a little bit, and I'm going to teach you two new notes, G, and they all found a G, and F. And we did a little bit more about how, the musical alphabet only goes to G, and now I want you to take it back one step, and they all had to figure out what's one step before G. Even that was kind of like we're not used to counting backwards through the alphabet. They don't teach us that in school. And that's because the English curriculum is not designed by musicians. If it were, you would learn how to count backwards through the alphabet, and you would also learn how to count by twos through the alphabet, because then you could spell chords very easily. But I digress. So they figured out G and F, and then we played the same song I was playing the G chord and the F chord, and they were just playing G and F, and it ends up sounding like this. Every night when the sun goes in, every night when the sun goes in, every night when the just like all of a sudden we've gone from sort of this lullaby into this sort of like I don't know, jam band rock tune, and all they're doing is playing G and F. So for the music theorists among us, you know, we've slid into G mixolydian. So it's really just the notes of the C scale, except now we're playing in the key of G, and it just automatically sounds cool. And going back and forth between G and F, I was like, well, that works. That works great. And secretly, of course, what they were learning was the C note in that first version, and in the second version, they learned the G note and the F note in a separate version, like in a separate exercise. But you put those two things together, what have they got now? C, F, and G. A very unintentionally clever way of teaching the 1, the 4, and the 5 in the key of C, which they need so badly. Of course, everybody knows we need those sounds, but to break them up so that they're learning sort of a song for the 1 chord, and then they're learning a song for the F and the G chord. And it's the same song, but it sounds totally different. And it's an echo song that they can respond to when they're able. It was just like a party. We were having a great time. And so this morning, I was thinking to myself, well, would that apply to other 1 chord songs? Is this a teaching technique that can actually be applied to like Frere Jacques or Three Blind Mice, or I don't know, anything else that you can think of where you can get away with 1 chord? And I sort of think that it does work. So like if I go Frere Jacques, dormez-vous, now that's all in C and using the C chord. But if I switch to G and F, Frere Jacques, dormez-vous, dormez-vous, sonne les matines, sonne les matines, ding, ding, dong. Or I could stretch it out and go, Frere Jacques, Frere Jacques, dormez-vous. I think I like that better. Dormez-vous, sonne les matines, G, F, G, F, ding, ding, dong, ding, ding, dong, ding, ding, dong. And it's like, okay, I've been teaching the ukulele for a very long time and playing the ukulele for even longer, and I never noticed that 1 chord songs in the major key can be converted that easily into 2 chord rock and roll songs, like instant conversion. And so I just put that out there because to me, I mean, if you're sitting there going, what does this have to do with, playing solo ukulele jazz arrangements? Pretty much nothing. But if you're sitting there and you're a teacher looking for some strategies that are just like do real work for you, this might blow your mind the way it blew my mind yesterday afternoon. And I wanted to share that with you because I know there are some people out there right now who are going to go, wow, I can use that tomorrow. I can use that right away. So there you go. A little bonus for you, for all the teachers out there. Turn a 1 chord song into a 2 chord song, and at the same time, learn the 1, 4, and 5 chords in the key of C. Wow. Try that on and let me know how it fits. Okay. What do we got? I know I got a lot more questions on my list here. I think I can do one real quick, and then the last one might take a little longer, so it'll be a judgment call. Here we go. Let's try this. This question comes from Donna, and Donna is working on the ukulele jazz course on Uketropolis, and she's onto a lesson called shish kebab. And I'm using the analogy of a shish kebab with all, like a bunch of different layers sort of stacked on top of one another. I'm using this analogy to try to explain how chords are actually constructed, because in jazz that really helps. if you if you know how chords are built, then you have you're just going to have more fun. That's really what it comes down to. So she says very succinctly, very to the point, Donna. She says, "Hi James, please explain why the F9 has no F, and also why the C9 has no C. Thanks, Donna." I just love this. I love this because she's like so to the point, and it is a question that comes up a lot when people first encounter what you might call rootless chords on the ukulele, or rootless voicings on the ukulele. She says, "Why is there no root? How can you have a chord called F9 that has no F note in it? It'd be like, I don't know, having a sign at the end of a driveway saying, 'Welcome to the Smith's house,' and then you go in and the Smiths don't even live there. You're like, why do you have a sign on the driveway that says this is where the Smiths live, and then there's nobody named Smith inside? That's just confusing. How can you even call this the Smith's house?" That's how it feels when you first come across rootless voicings. You're like, you're calling this F9, and the F doesn't even live here. What gives? It's very frustrating and seems just bonkers. Well, let me see. How did I actually respond to Donna? I said, "Good question, Donna." I said, "Would you believe that the root of a chord, the root note, that very note after which the chord is named, would you believe that it is the least important note in a jazz chord?" It's true. And the reason is very simply, someone else in the band, usually the bass player, but sometimes the guitar player or the pianist, someone else in the band will probably be playing that note. So we don't have to, especially when we only have four strings and we have like a six-note chord, and you have to choose something to leave out. Let someone else do that one. They're happy to play the root. The bass player, that's the bass player's job. Let them do their thing. You don't have to double up you don't have to state the obvious if the bass player is already banging away on that note. We have other things to do. We have other fish to fry on on our ukuleles. But here's the magic of it. That's the practical answer. But the sort of magical answer of uh, why you don't need to play the root in a jazz chord, the magic answer is, even if you're playing solo and you don't have a bass player and you don't have a guitarist, you don't have a pianist, even if it's just you and you're playing C minor 7 to F9 to B flat, somehow our ears know these sounds so well that in most cases our ears are going to follow the harmonic movement without needing that root note at all. This progression that I'm playing right now has a missing root in the second chord. This one here, it sounds great, and it leads inexorably to home, and yet it doesn't have the root, the note after which it's named. That's F9. I was playing F13. And that's the magical answer. That's the magic of the way we perceive sounds, and the way that culturally we understand sounds. And in fact, the more important sort of audio marker that the ear listens for in a chord, more important than the root note, especially when we're talking about 9 chords, because that's what Donna's talking about here. The more important audio marker that signals to the ear what the role of this chord is and what to expect next, The more important thing is the tritone interval between the third and the seventh of the chord. That, if you mess with that little interval, then the chord really does start to dissolve and the meaning can't be discerned by the ear. So yeah, there are some things that are off limits. Don't mess with the tritone. But we can do without the root, turns out, as long as that salty interval is there to resolve, then we're just fine. And it turns out that that is the more important audio marker for us. So I hope that that helps, Donna, and anyone else out there who's wondering why the Smiths don't live here, even though there's a sign that says, "Welcome to the Smiths' house." Okay, so that's just a little bonus, and hopefully we can fit one more in just the few minutes that we have left here. I don't know if we can. Actually, I'm just looking at the time going, wow, what happens? What just happened? Steven's asking, F13, how do you do that? One of my favorite chords on the ukulele fretboard, 2, 3, 3, 5. There is not an F note anywhere near there, but it sounds so great. F13, B flat. Yeah, that's a good one. Sometime remind me to show you my party trick where I can make all the open strings sound like 4 different chords depending on what note I'm singing in the bass. That's a good little party trick. But we don't quite have time for it today. Okay, let's see. The questions here from the chat. I think this would be a good time to answer a couple of questions from the chat. We have just enough time for that. Okay. The first one is, let me see. The first one is about performance anxiety when it comes to performing on stage. I am decently fluent when I play by myself, but whenever there is another set of eyes or a camera in front of me, I mess up. Yeah. And I think that comes right from Sierra. And Jody is following up saying, I have the same concern. My fingers freeze up unpredictably, so it's even more anxiety producing because I don't know when it will happen. Oh boy. I'm certainly not an expert on dealing with this sort of stage fright, because I think, first of all, I always get nervous when I perform, or even before I log on to a live stream. I think that's totally natural and good. It means that you're alive, so a certain amount of nerves are good. People sometimes ask me, are you feeling nervous for this show? You're just about to go on. Are you feeling nervous? First of all, that's not a very helpful question. So if you're in that position, ask something else, because that's not a very helpful question. But if somebody says, are you nervous? Sometimes I'll say, well, of course I'm nervous. I'd be more nervous if I wasn't nervous. That would be weird, but there is a difference between being nervous and being scared. Those are two very different things. Sometimes I have dreams that I'm going on stage and I don't know the music. Like, it's not that I know it and I'm worried that I'm not going to play it right. I literally don't know it. That's a fear dream. That's abject fear. But nerves is a different thing. And I think knowing the difference between the two is important. If you are backstage or getting ready to go on at an open mic and you feel fear, like you need to run and hide under a tree, that's That's one thing. That's a different category from if you just have butterflies, right, in your stomach. So that's one thing. Um, if you have true fear, you need to look at that more carefully and decide, probably with somebody who's a lot more qualified than me, what to do about that. If you have true fear of performing, if you're just a little nervous, you have butterflies, your hands are a bit clammy, you're like, you have to pee. Sometimes Anne and I look at each other and say, "Ah, it's just nervous pee. Don't worry." Your body does weird things when you're about to go into a situation like that because it's preparing to be at its best. It's preparing to be in a heightened state. You know what it's like when you're on stage. Um, you perceive everything in a heightened state. Um, it's almost like you're experiencing a higher frame rate on stage than the audience is. Sometimes, you'll be on stage and something will happen. You'll fall off the fretboard, or you'll miss a note, and it feels like the world has just come crashing down because, oh my goodness, I missed that slide from C to F. Oops, I went to G instead. And you think, how ever recover? And then you watch a video that somebody took of it, and you don't even hear that mistake. It's because you were experiencing that moment in such high resolution because your whole body was bristling. Your senses were just heightened. And so your body is doing some pretty amazing stuff in those moments. And that's why performers over prepare. Um, Two examples. One is Yo-Yo Ma, the great cellist. If you hear cello in the background, by the way, Anne is teaching a lesson right upstairs right now. So if you're being serenaded by the sweet sounds of cello, that's why. Um, Yo-Yo Ma, the famous cellist, would practice in his practice room in a snowsuit, wearing the tuxedo that he was going to wear in the performance coming up. And I've never tried this, but I really admire what he's trying to do to recreate the performance environment where you feel like you can't move properly and you're sweating so much. If you can recreate some of those scenarios in your practice, then you'll be that much more prepared. Am I recommending that everybody go out and buy a snowsuit just so they can practice ukulele? Not exactly, but you know what I'm saying. The idea of over preparing. Sometimes what you can do that doesn't require buying a snowsuit is practice with distractions. I'm not saying do this all the time, but sometimes it's great to put the radio on, to put a Spotify playlist on quite loud, to put the TV on maybe in the background, watch a TV show quite loud, um, and see if you can still play. Put headphones on so that you can hardly hear yourself. Can you still play? How can you quickly and easily um, recreate that the environment that causes you to mess up? Because if you can recreate that and get comfortable there, well, then when you get on stage and you can't see anyone because you're blinded by the lights, you can't hear anything because the monitors are acting up, and you can't see your fingers because you don't want to look down, uh, and you're covered in sweat. If you can recreate that and get comfortable there, well, then it's not going to be such a shock when you get on stage. This is super common. I think most people feel that once they can do it at home, hey, they're ready. But it's more like once you can do it at home with two hands tied behind your back, blindfolded, then you're ready to try it on the stage. The second example that I was thinking of was the stories that I've heard from the traditional Chinese opera, which is not opera the way the European opera tradition has it. It involves acrobatics as well, and physical comedy, and singing and acting, and it's all kind of meshed together. So the story I heard was that in order to be allowed to walk across the stage, you first had to run across ice in high heels. you know, Whether or not this is totally accurate or a little bit, what's the word? What's that long word that is? telling stories out of school, anachronistic or something like that. Apocryphal, I think that's the word. Maybe it's an apocryphal story, but the idea that to walk, first you had to run across ice in high heels, that gives you a sense of what it means to over prepare for something. Jackie Chan, for example, came out of the school of Chinese opera, and I bet he's pretty good at running on ice and high heels at this point. Okay, well, I love what Carol says. She says this over practicing thing or distracted practice definitely works. She says I'm practicing right now as I listen to you. That's great. I'm so glad. Thank you, Carol. Well, guys, I just want to put in one more plug for Uku Loudly, which is starting tomorrow. And if you want to be part of a worldwide ukulele orchestra, sign up. It's totally free. And if you've heard about uke heads, there's a lot of similarities to uke heads, although we're only playing songs from Uketropolis. So it's kind of like the Uketropolis house band. And every few weeks, not on a set schedule, every few weeks, I'll announce a new arrangement, usually something pretty wild, like taking a song from Uketropolis and really standing it on its head, doing something new with it, something fun. And there'll be a part for you to sing or play. And you show up to the rehearsal, you're not going to know what song it is. And you'll have a couple of weeks to record and send in your part. So it's not like you're on the spot or anything. And you can record on your own time, on your own device, even just recording on a phone is fine. So there's nothing to lose and lots of music to be played. So go on over to ukuloudly.com and sign up, and I will see you tomorrow for the start of that journey. So thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in today. Thanks to Sayera for moderating, and I see Angela is here too. Shout out to Angela, and also Paul. Thanks, team. You guys are great. And I will see Uku Loudly folks tomorrow, and the rest of you I'll see this time next month. Until then, keep on strumming, be well, and take care.